This week, the Venus retrograde story is finally coming to a close. And with Venus switching directions on the same day as the full moon in Libra, a sign that Venus rules, one can say that this story is wrapping up on a rather dramatic note. Hi all, my name is Haley Comet. Welcome to Magic Monday, particularly your weekly astrological forecast for the week of April 7th to April 13th, 2025. What is happening this week astrologically, and true to Magic Monday, how it is that you can navigate this week co-creating with the cosmos magically. Because when you flow with the cosmos rather than forcing your way against them, you experience a lot more flow and alignment within your world. Some may say more magic within your world. I'm your host, Haley Comet, here to guide you forward into the week or to support you in reflecting back on the week. However, when it comes to this week's astrology, there is a distinct focus on moving forward, looking forward. That is because two planets, Mercury and Venus, are stationing direct this week, which could signal that there is a shift of perspective, being less passive and more active, being less internally focused and more externally focused, being less concerned with the past and more concerned with the future. Retrogrades tend to send us down memory lane, whether people or dynamics from our past are coming around via dreams, via reflections, via nostalgia. There tends to be a focus on pondering, reflecting, reminiscing. And this is the sort of week that kind of stops us in our tracks on our walk down memory lane and make us recognize, I've been here before. Like, I've seen all of this before. There's nothing new for me really on memory lane. I'm a little bored of this. I'm ready to move forward. And it's not to say that it's a waste of time or that there genuinely is nothing new for you on memory lane. Sometimes as we reminisce and we reflect, yes, the memories, the dynamics, the people that we are contemplating are the same, but we're different. So we see data that we didn't before. We see red flags where we didn't before. We see intel where we didn't before. So it's not to say that our stroll down memory lane was a waste of time, but there comes to be a point in time where it's like, it's Aries season. It's time to trailblaze a new path. It's going to be important, even though it's Aries season, the first sign of the zodiac, all around boldness and courage and initiation. This is not necessarily an invitation to veer dramatically from memory lane and start forcing a new path right away. Let's give some time for Mercury and Venus to clear their post-retrograde shadow. But there is a moment where you turning out of memory lane, we're like, listen, I've seen what I need to see. And it's time for me to move forward with a new perspective. Like I said, it's the same situation, same dynamics, but we are different. And sometimes we see clues and hints that we missed the first go round. Maybe we reviewed that memory of grabbing a bushel of a plant and then realizing it was poison ivy and having to deal with a horrendous rash. Now, as we're trailblazing a new path, we remember that particular memory and we're like, ooh, gotta steer clear of that. Maybe there are certain connections that at the time of your life, they served you, but now when you reminisce, you're like, I was settling for so much less than what I deserved. Or reviewing your current relationship and past conflict or issues that you guys have had and seeing how there's threads of what was seeded then that are blossoming now or alive within your dynamic now. Those detours to memory lane will be helpful in the new paths that we are carving. But it's going to be important to not just think about it, but be about it. Okay? Be about it. Enforce that data. Learn from your mistakes. Learn from that poison ivy. Learn from what has come back around. Whether that's mentally, romantically, platonically, what have you. You can't just think about it. You got to be about it. Because this week, it's a bit like a cosmic test. And I don't say that in a way where the cosmos is mean and cruel and testing us and going to flunk us out of life school. That's not what I'm saying at all. But it is going to test you to see if you've really learned your lesson and if you're really done with a certain cycle. And I say this because Venus aligns with Saturn. I mean, if a planet could embody being about it, that's Saturn. That's standing on business. That's holding firm to our boundaries. That is keeping our standards and expectations high. And the day that Venus stations direct, we have the full moon in Libra. This is creating a huge spotlight on relationships, both the relationships with other individuals, but also with the relationship with yourself and what it is that you will and will not withstand, what it is that you will and will not withstand, what it is that you truly value, what it is that you are truly committed to, what boundaries you have. You know, Love requires boundaries, and we can look to the cosmos and see that reflected quite beautifully. Saturn, the planet of rigidity and structure and boundaries, exalts in the sign Libra, the sign of relationships. And healthy relationships require Saturn, which can show up as commitment in some connections, that can show up as legality in some connections, getting the law involved, that can show up as boundaries, and it can also show up around restriction, what it is that you will and will not withstand, what is a yes, what is a no, what you value, what you enforce. It requires you to stand on business, because what's the point of walking down memory lane and remembering, oh, that's what that poison ivy looked like. That's what that really harmful thing that created that poisonous rash looked like. But if on our new path, this poison ivy looks so inviting and we're like, just this once, and we allow ourselves to be tempted and allured, no, that's where the Saturn energy supports us around. Absolutely not. I'm going to restrict myself from grabbing that poison ivy. I know where that leads. I've seen this film before and I didn't like the ending. And for most of us, it's like, it's not literally that we're being allured by poison ivy on a trail. But for a lot of us, this can show up around recognizing that a certain dynamic has set into your relationship that reminds you of the early days of your connections, and something that you didn't like back then and something that you didn't state back then that now is coming back around. The same theme. Are you going to do exactly what you did then, or are you going to show up differently? Or you are dating someone new and they exhibit a very similar red flag to what you have dealt with within your past. Are you going to see if it's different this time, or are you going to take the red flag for what it is? Venus is also money. So it's like, maybe we remember lending our uncle money way back when that was never returned. Now that same scenario comes up. It's like, are we going to repeat the same story, the same path, the same lessons, or are we going to stand on business to take that data, to implement that data? It doesn't matter how many lessons you learn or how much wisdom you accumulate if you don't live it. And sometimes that's hard. Sometimes that requires saying no. Sometimes it's you having to talk about the hard thing. Sometimes it's you having to protect your heart and not open yourself up to something that could be incredibly damaging. It's not easy when it comes to Venus-Saturn. And if Venus-Neptune a couple weeks ago was the high, Venus-Saturn is the sober morning. Like, Venus-Saturn is the reality check of where our delusions and illusions could have gotten the best of us around, yeah, I never got that money back from my uncle, but it'll be different this time. Or, yeah, this person is exhibiting the same red flag as my ex and that was a horrible situation, but maybe they'll prove me wrong. Or, this situation within my current relationship reminds me of where I felt so disrespected and so belittled in the beginning of our relationship, but I don't want to disrupt the peace, so I'll just let it go. Yes, that poison ivy hurt me badly last time, but maybe this time it'll be different. Saturn energy is giving a reality check to Venus and Pisces around sometimes poison ivy is just poison ivy. We can romanticize it around, oh, it's so beautiful. I see the potential in the poison ivy. It won't hurt me again. Poison ivy is poison ivy. And some of us could feel certain consequences around where we've given too many chances, where we've been a little bit too compassionate to the point of being self-sacrificial. To the full moon in Libra, the sun is in Aries, moon is in Libra. For any relationship to thrive, you need to be protective of yourself, of your heart, of your energy. You need to advocate for yourself. You need to stand up for yourself. We talked a lot about that last week. And this week we are being tested around how we are actively doing that, both within our current connections as well as within our standards for connections moving forward. And we will talk about this so much more in depth. We have not even gotten into the Chiron Cazimi of it all, the Venus sextile Uranus of it all, we're finally getting out of eclipse season of it all. We have a lot to cover. Before we do, take a step inside my cosmic cafe. Let me know what you are sipping on to start your week. I'm a little boring this week. We just have a cup of drip coffee with a little bit of almond milk, tried and true, a classic. And honestly, there is just a direct correlation between how overwhelmed I am and how basic the drinks are that I make in Magic Monday. It's like I just do not have any brain space to even contemplate anything besides how much work I need to get done before I jet set off on my tour that I told you guys about last week. But regardless, we're here, we're in the clear, and we've got this, my dear. Sorry, I'm a little loopy. I have not been sleeping too much. Life, right? Woo! Life is a lot. I'm hoping with these directs there will be some like forward momentum. I feel like I've been underwater since literally Mars retrograde back in December. I feel like I've not had a moment to breathe as it relates to like my workload and my tasks. It's like I've finished 5 things and look over and there's 15 things. And I'm like, what is going on? I feel like I cannot catch my breath. I cannot get above it. So I'm hopeful now that Mercury is direct and Venus direct. Technically, at this point in time, all planets are direct. So I'm hoping we can all like move forward. If anyone else has been feeling that, even if that hasn't shown up around your like literal workload, even if that's shown up just around feeling more drained, feeling more exhausted, feeling more down, feeling like you're taking 2 steps forward and then 5 steps back. Like I do anticipate that shifting cosmically. I mean, we've been dealing with retrograde palooza as of late. And so we finally have this opportunity to move forward, to hopefully get on top of things. At least I'm hoping so. I'm hoping so. But we're caffeinated. This astrology is faded. I don't know what's going on with my rhyming this week, so let's go ahead and take it into vibe check of the week. So here on Magic Monday, we have a vibe check of the week that is designed to familiarize you with the cosmos, translating the language of astrology to the language of reality, essentially. We compare all of the astrology of this week to a real life scenario to give you a sense around what this astrology looks like in real life and what dynamics may surface as you navigate your real life. I'm not saying that this exact situation will surface, show up in a different arena of life within a different dynamic, but these are just the overall emotions and themes, the vibe to look out for as you navigate your week. We will say that you have this on again, off again relationship with Jeff. A lot of focus this week around relationships. We've got a full moon in Libra. This is all around relationships and partnerships. And we will say you and Jeff have been in a bit of a cycle. You've been in a bit of a cycle. You know what is down that lane if you walk that path with Jeff, but you just cannot help but fall into it every single time. To grab that poison ivy every single time. You know it's gonna hurt you. And in fact, every time you go back, it hurts a little bit more. But there's just this magnetic draw, this pull. I mean, this person is your drug in a sense. Like this person is your high. And while you get more and more hurt every time the same exact story plays out, there is that initial euphoria, and that high keeps you hooked, because the times that you decide, okay, I've had enough, you gotta go, the times that you kick this person out of your life, life just feels so boring. It feels so grayscale. You want a hit. You want a hit, truly, of this person. And when you have a high, when you have euphoria in your life, a lot of your life in the baseline will feel lower and lower and lower. So it's like when Jeff is in your life, things just feel so intense and so euphoric. It's like hard for reality to compare with that. So of course, when it gets so bad that you cannot walk down that path anymore and you are back in your own reality, it feels quite boring. You feel maybe lonely, nothing gives you pleasure. It feels like food tastes bland. You don't feel hot, you don't feel good about yourself, and things just stack in such a way that you find yourself again and again running back to Jeff, running back to Jeff, running back to Jeff. It's just like oscillating between these intense highs and these intense lows and these extreme fights and these dramatic, we're getting back together, and it's just not very consistent. And I would argue Saturn exalts in Libra. Connection and love and relationship and partnership is consistent. It's grounded. It's someone that you're able to build with, someone that you're able to choose even on the boring days, even on the mundane ways. And not all of us will exist within the same exact relationship and with the same exact paradigm. So I'm not saying what one person wants within a relationship is what you necessarily want within a relationship, but we'll say within the vibe check, there's a small part of you that recognizes that you deserve more, that you deserve more. But your nervous system and your mind has been hijacked in such a way that you can't even conceive that reality. You don't even care if you deserve more. You just want Jeff. You just want Jeff, even though Jeff has been cruel to you, even if every time you run back, it just digs open old wounds and add some fresh new wounds just for good measure, you can't help it. You know, the heart wants what the heart wants. Sometimes the heart will have us doing things that are not logical, right? Running back to situations that we know are not good for us. Grabbing poison ivy when we know that will hurt us. And sometimes we do have to have barriers around our heart. We do have to protect our heart. I feel that Venus retrograde aligned with Saturn is a reminder of that. And so we'll say within the vibe check that after this final blow, after this final situation, you cannot possibly justify ever going back to Jeff again. Like, even if the heart wants what it wants, there comes to be a certain level of disrespect. There comes to be a certain level of, you can't come back from that. Like, regardless if this story magically morphs into a fairy tale and we end up to be life partners and together forever, I would be so embarrassed if this was who my child's father was. Like, if I tell this is part of our love story, like, there are some events where it's like, yeah, all of the romanticizing in the world, all of the idealizing, all of the seeing the best in you, can't come back from that. Venus Saturn is reality check. So there is something that occurs with Jeff that is a reality check that rips you out of that fantasy, that reverie around maybe this time will be different. Maybe this time will be different. You have to see it for what it is. Like, something happens that passes such a line for you that you recognize that this has to be the final time. Like, you cannot possibly keep justifying walking down this path with Jeff. And so you decide, like, it's done. It stops now. And typically you guys have this weird twisted little pattern where he's had you walk away before quite a few times, actually, quite a few times. And you always come back. You always run back to this person. And so he's expecting that same cycle to repeat. You decide, out of the love that you have for yourself, your respect needs to be stronger than the love that you have for the person or the potential that you see within this person. And it is like detoxing. Truly, it is like detoxing. The time in which you're in no contact with Jeff, it's like you are lacking motivation. You have no interest in doing anything. You can't possibly understand how you'll ever be attracted to anyone else. You have to stop yourself from reaching out. Like, it's just your instinct to want to text this person. Like, this is always the part of your guys' story where you run back and the cycle repeats. Like, this is always the part of the story. You reach this certain threshold of time where you run back. And that is the threshold in when you feel tested. Like I said, this week's astrology is kind of like a test, and maybe yours shows up around your self-love, around your finances, around your relationship, around a friendship, but there is a cosmic test this week, and you are feeling tested within the vibe check. Will I run back? Will I see if it's different this time? Will I grab that same poison ivy and see if it gives me a rash this time? Maybe this time it won't. Maybe this time it won't. Maybe that poisonous plant is somehow no longer poisonous. Maybe if I project onto it and idealize it and romanticize it and see it as a beautiful bouquet, it will decide that it no longer wants to be who it is, which is poisonous, at least for me. And so you make it over that threshold. It takes so much from you, but you make it over that threshold. And with time, you get a little bit better and a little bit better, and food starts to taste better, and the color starts to return, and you have a genuine moment where you actually laugh and you start to feel hopeful around one element of your career. It shows up in glimmers. Healing, absolutely, and it is not a linear process. There's a huge focus on healing this week with the full moon opposing Chiron. We've got a Chiron Cazimi, and healing is not linear. And within our vibe check protagonist, it's certainly not linear, but you did get over the hump. You did get over that threshold of time that you always go back. And the cycle is broken. The cycle is broken. You know, if anyone's like our vibe check protagonist and wants to text, your Jeff this week, like, I'm telling you, just make it to the other side of Venus retrograde, because this is a time that we are plunged to the past, and it's hard to even conceptualize, how will I fall in love again? How will I find someone that I'm attracted to? How will I move forward without this person within my path? And Venus retrograde tends to be this time in which we are kind of blocked from new directions within love and romance until we really rectify, make peace, and learn all the lessons from our past. And so if you can make it to the other side of Venus direct, it's not that we're all of a sudden healed and never going to miss anyone who we used to have a connection, a friendship, a relationship with, but it does signal that you can really start to move forward. And there will be a day in time that you look back, see that the Jeff that you were crying, throwing up, losing your mind over, you wouldn't even look at twice if you were walking down the street. It's just going to be some random person on memory lane that holds no interest to you. But the hardest part is breaking the cycle. Like when you're in a cycle, especially when it's hooked on your nervous system, your mind, you're hooked on somebody else's ups and downs, it's hard to break. And maybe that's showing up differently for you. Maybe there's been a certain cycle that you and your partner are in where you guys have a fight, you ice each other out, and then you act like it didn't happen and you brush it under the rug. Maybe there's a certain pattern that you have with your uncle where you lend him money, he ignores you until the time that he needs to borrow money again. Maybe there's a tendency to keep going on dates with people that you're really not interested in because you feel bad out of obligation. If we keep doing what it is that we've been doing, we will keep getting what it is that we've been getting. And sometimes in order to really integrate what we've learned in this life here on planet Earth thus far, we have to get a little Saturn with it around, no, I will not go on a date with you. We need to talk about this. Uncle, what's good? What's good? Why are you hitting me up for money all of the time? Like, it takes being Saturn with it, like standing on business and being about it, which could show up for some of you, staying no contact, being no contact, staying no contact. Because maybe for you, you're not in contact with your ex, it wasn't a recent breakup, but you're still just like, dang, I cannot move forward, I cannot move forward. That was Venus retrograde, just kind of like yanking you to the past. And I do feel that this full moon in Libra, Venus direct, it's going to be that glimmer moment. Like that moment that you find yourself attracted to somebody at a coffee shop and you're like, whoa, hold on, I can be attracted to people outside of Jeff? Hold on. Or that moment that you have genuine laughter with a friend and you're like, wait, love is all around me. I was like so focused on love where it wasn't that I forgot to tune into love where it is. You start to dream of, what if I had a partner who didn't traumatize me every time that I ran back to them? What a concept. Like that glimmer of excitement around, that would be so cool if I had a partner who did not continually scar me. Again, it shows up small and it does entail for you to work through those hard moments, to allow your respect for yourself to sometimes be louder than your love for someone else, truly, if they have mistreated you. Sometimes you do have to protect your heart, Saturn on Venus, Chiron, Cazimi. Sometimes you've got to protect your healing. In an ideal world, we would be able to be all unconditional love and all selfless all of the time, how Venus in Pisces wants to be. But with Venus passing Saturn and reflecting on past experiences, we're recognizing we can see the beauty in the poison ivy, but it's still poison ivy. And that doesn't make nature and this world any less beautiful, but it is important to know what to look out for and what could cause harm and what could cause pain. So we'll go ahead and transition into our day-by-day analysis. I just want to remind you that all time zones that I mention are PDT, so please adjust to your local time zone if you are located elsewhere in the world than I am. I also have timestamps below where you're able to jump to a particular day, you're able to jump back to a particular day, and there's also a gear icon where you can adjust my playback speed. So if I'm talking quite fast, I got a lot to do today. We're talking about the astrology. We're going to go through it. I'm happy to be here with you, but we are going to go at a little bit of a quicker pace. So deepest apologies. Feel free to hit the gear icon to slow me down, or you can even speed me up if you've got your own packed to-do list today as well and you're trying to take your cosmos on the go, turbo speed. That's also an option. But without further ado, let's go ahead and take it into the astrology for Monday, April 7th. On Monday, April 7th at 4:01 a.m. PDT, Venus in Pisces will align with Saturn in Pisces. And this is that reality check energy, which some of us may feel within our relationships, within our friendships, within our finances. Venus Saturn is having to look at something that you would rather ignore. This is looking at something clearly that you would rather romanticize. You know, all of the rose-colored glasses in the world cannot take away from what it is that you are literally looking at. Like, it might have a pretty rose-tinted hue, but you're still looking at a pile of poop. So you can't delude yourself into acting like it's gold just because it has a prettier lens or a prettier tint. At a certain point, you gotta call a spade a spade. Because the nature of Venus Pisces is to romanticize, which is such a beautiful quality. Venus exalts in Pisces. This is being able to see the beauty in others, the divinity in others, and the beauty and divinity all around us. But there comes to be a point in time in which our tendency to romanticize can be actively causing us harm. And it's not that necessarily Saturn is harm energy. I'm just kind of weaving that in because of the Chiron Cazimi over the weekend. But Saturn is hard energy. So maybe there's certain issues within your relationship that you'd rather swim away from. I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to deal with it. It's hard. It's hard. Or maybe there are certain financial decisions that you have to make that you would rather not deal with. It's hard. Maybe there are certain values that you have to stand by. And get this, shortly after that Venus-Saturn alignment conjoins, Mercury stations direct, just 7 minutes later. And with Mercury stationing direct, this is a move towards clarity. I'm not saying that you're necessarily going to have all of the clarity the moment that Mercury stations direct. Give it some time to cover some ground. Give it some time to get out of its detriment. Mercury does not thrive being in Pisces. But the alignment of these two astrological events happening back to back, it just feels like that moment, that aha, when you're looking at Jeff and Jeff just did the thing that he cannot come back from. And it's like utter clarity. Because the heart is not so logical. Like I said, the heart wants what the heart wants. Venus exalts in Pisces. Pisces, love it as an energy, but it can be very, delusional. It can be very led by love. It's not always so logical. It's not always clear-headed. And with Mercury direct, it's like finally your mind being a little bit louder than your heart. Like your heart's like, but I love Jeff, but I love Jeff. And Mercury direct is like, but do you see Jeff? Do you see what Jeff just did? Did you hear what Jeff just said? Like whatever it was with Mercury direct, there is this move towards clarity, which again, it's not going to show up with all of our Jeffs this week necessarily, but there just could be an energy around taking what Venus retrograde has brought your way and integrating it, because Mercury has been on Venus's heels, right? As that little sibling energy, like Venus station retrograde, Mercury station retrograde, and the two covered very similar territories of the sky. And now with Mercury direct, there's this energy around how can I take all of the data? How can I take all of the data? What it is that I learned? How can I write down all of what Jeff has done or said to disrespect me? So in those moments that my heart yearns for this person, I can review Exhibit A, Exhibit B, Exhibit C, Exhibit D. And sometimes that takes restraint. Sometimes that's a muscle to work. And that's the Venus-Saturn energy, because within the vibe check, it's not that you didn't want to run right back. But with the energy of Saturn, you had to create that restriction around your heart. You had to protect your heart. In an ideal world, we would all be free to be able to be in our fullest Venus Pisces bag and just give chance after chance after chance and give our uncle our entire bank account, turn the poison ivy into a beautiful bouquet within our home. That's an ideal world. And Saturn energy is the real world. So sometimes it's just recognizing, especially if you have a soft heart, a sweet heart, an empathetic soul, you've got to protect your energy. You've got to shake yourself out of this illusion that the poison ivy isn't the poison ivy and that this person is not bad for you and that this issue will resolve itself magically. Like sometimes we have to do the hard thing. And it just feels like there's a move towards clarity with Mercury stationing direct. And with Venus-Saturn, a lot of you could feel this financially. Like maybe you've been brushing things under the rug, you've let some auto pays go by without recognizing that they were taken out. You've just been living your best life, and Venus-Saturn could be getting like that alert on your phone, like low account alert, and you're like, oh no, I have to face my transactions. Part of you feels like you're gonna log in, you're gonna see all of these transactions that you didn't do, but as you go through, you're like, oh yeah, that was me. Oh yeah, and that was me. Oh yeah. Okay, this is all me. This is all me. And when Saturn energy, it can show up around taking responsibility of that, facing it, and just taking in, okay, I did all of the spending, or this is the state of my finances. And with Mercury direct, how am I going to, move forward? I can't undo that online shopping that I did last week, or that auto pay that accidentally renewed that I didn't intend to. All I can do is learn from this. Really, all you can do is learn from this. And it's important not to see these things as a waste of time, these mistakes and these errors. There's data there, but it's all around if you implement it or if you integrate it. If you take that moving forward around, if you get in another dynamic and someone shows a similar red flag to Jeff, you take that for what it is and you recognize that's not my person. That is not my person. I've been down this path. I've been down this path. Or if you had a bad day at work and you feel that pull to online shop and then you remember, ooh, that didn't feel good. Having to stretch till payday, that didn't feel good. Let me integrate that data. I learned this lesson. And sometimes the universe will repeat certain lessons until we signal, I am genuinely ready to graduate from this. Like, I am genuinely ready to graduate from this lesson. And sometimes it'll be hard. You could hear from an ex-friend from your past where you know the connection was not healthy. And there's that temptation around, am I going to fall back into this? Or am I going to hold firm? Our uncle hits us up. Are we going to lend him money again or hold firm? Jeff hits us up. Are we going to run back into the dynamic or hold firm? The choice is really up to you, but the cosmos are really nudging around recognizing, are you through with the lesson? Are you through with the pattern? And are you ready for something new? And I want to emphasize that because this evening at 9:48 p.m., Venus will sextile Uranus. So Saturn is sextiling Uranus in the sky right now. So that's still alive. We talked about that in last week's Magic Monday. And now they are interacting with Venus. So now Venus has this opportunity to enact new boundaries or to move towards new dynamics with the sextile Uranus. Keep in mind, Venus is not stationed direct, so I wouldn't say this is the day that you need to hop on the apps and go find your soulmate or anything like that. But it's even just like recognizing within yourself, I deserve something new, or I'm ready for something new, or I'm ready for just a fresh new energy. I'm ready for a new dynamic. I'm ready for something healthy. I'm ready for someone I can build with. I'm ready for like a life partner. Like, I'm ready for something new. I'm ready for uncharted territory. I'm ready for a relationship to shock me, to surprise me, because it's so new, it's so fresh, it's so different, it's so easy, it has so much flow. And to get to that space where you're open to that in big or small ways, you have to firstly recognize that you are worthy of that. You are worthy of that. And I want to let you know, sometimes Venus Saturn has us a little down on ourselves. This was kind of woven into the vibe check around nothing felt fun. There was no pleasure to be had. Food didn't taste good. Like, Venus is the planet of pleasure. And with Venus on Saturn, sometimes life is just a little blah. Life is a little blah, which is the case a lot of times when you are exiting out of any sort of toxic relationship, because you are literally coming down. Like, you are literally detoxing from that person and from that. So life feels a little more gray, a little more boring. Get over that hump. I guarantee you, if anybody is in a situation with their Jeff, life is so good on the other side. Life is so good on the other side. Get away from him. Get away from him. I swear to God, if you take one thing from any of my astrology videos, get away from your Jeff. Get away from your Jeff. And this is not my implying, because I know some people, you know, reunite with someone from their past and they're different people and they've done the work and they're able to build a healthy, amazing relationship. That's incredible. I'm not talking down on that. But if there is a connection where it just continually hurts you and hurts you and hurts you, and you go back thinking that the source of the wound is where healing will be, it just hurts more every single time. And it's hard as hell to detox from this person. But on the other side, you will smile again, you will laugh again, you will find love again, you will fall in love with yourself again. Like, there's so much good on the other side of it. It's just so hard to get to the other side of it and to break that loop and to break that cycle. So if anyone is doing that currently, I just want to say I'm rooting for you. I'm cheering you on. And when we're entangled in dynamics like that, we don't always feel good about ourselves, right? Sometimes we've associated this person with our own validation. So we keep coming back, where even if this person hurts us and we're like, you're really not that great of a person, we've built this person up, we've put them on the pedestal, Venus Pisces, to feel like Jeff is the one who can dictate if I'm worthy or beautiful or lovable or what have you. And that's not the case. Jeff is just Jeff. Jeff is just Jeff, but we don't see things clearly when we're ensnared in one of these dynamics, and especially if there's been a lot of pain layered on top of pain. And I want to say that because with Venus Saturn, you could be feeling not valuable. Like, you could be feeling down on yourself. You could be feeling not beautiful. Saturn limits what it touches. So you could be less in touch with the beauty all around you. You could be less in touch with the beauty within you, especially with Venus retrograde. You know, if anybody has felt like they've had a bad hair day since March 1st, plain Venus retrograde. We typically do not feel our best aesthetically when it comes to Venus retrograde. That too is improving as we walk closer to this weekend. And I want to highlight that because with Venus retrograde, how we perceive our beauty and our value is incredibly important. Like, other people can be like, why are you entertaining Jeff? You've got all of these things going for you. Like, you've got such a kind heart. Like, what are you doing? Or other people can reassure you, no, you're beautiful. No, you're beautiful. No, you're beautiful. If you don't feel it, you don't feel it. Like with Venus retrograde, this is a turn inward. The love that you have with yourself, the relationship that you have with yourself. You could be the most beautiful person, but if you don't feel it, you don't feel it. You could have so much to offer, but if you feel like all you are worthy of is this dynamic with Jeff, that will be the case. And no amount of validation from the external world could possibly compliment you enough out of that. Like, you've got to build that from within. With Venus Saturn, you've got to see your own worth. You've got to see your own value. You've got to see your own beauty. Because if you're contingent upon validation, that can set you up to be in situations that you don't want to be in. You guys hear me say this all the time. Self-love is not bubble baths and chocolate. Self-love is also setting boundaries. Self-love is also saying no. Self-love is also protecting your heart. Because Venus is in Pisces, not everybody deserves your empathy. Not everybody deserves you seeing the absolute best in them. Not everybody deserves it. And like we were talking about last week, sometimes you do need to protect that side of you, because it's a beautiful quality to see the best in people and to romanticize your life, but you do need to protect it, or else you can find that you accidentally swim into some waters that are not the best for you, and that will poison and muddy the love that you have for others, the compassion that you have for others, the empathy that you have for others. And if you've been in a lot of dynamics where you feel like there's been a lot of taking and not a lot of giving, it starts with deciding that you're ready for something new. Venus sextile Uranus. Deciding to dream of a different dynamic, which may come through in like glimmers. An internal decision, Venus is retrograde, that you are worthy of something new. Whether that's in friendship, in relationship, with finances, you are worthy of something new. And sometimes deeply loving yourself, seeing your own worth, seeing your own value, sometimes there is a price you pay for that, right? With the alignment to Saturn. Sometimes that means being lonely some nights, because you're not gonna go out on a date with someone until you're like really ready, in a space where you are ready to pursue that. Sitting with the tears when every part of you just wants to run to Jeff in order to be consoled, or saying no when your friends invite you out because you would rather put your money towards something that you're investing into. Like, it's not easy to stand on business with Venus Saturn, but if you want a different result, if you don't want this reality check around, I am really entertaining someone who is cruel to me, or I am really wasting my time because I'm scared to sit with myself, or I am really just draining my bank account doing activities that I don't even enjoy, you have to decide you're ready for something new. And this is soft flow of energy. It's a subtle flow of energy, but it just feels like an internal decision around, I'm ready for something new. I'm ready for a new financial reality. I'm ready for a new romantic reality. And I know I'm ready because I've integrated all of this data from the past, or this reality check with Venus Saturn. And so our lunar story on Monday, the moon is in Leo all day long. It sextiles Jupiter in Gemini, trines the Aries sun in the morning time, then trines Chiron at 4:32 p.m., going on to square Uranus in the evening time. And the moon is void from 9:08 p.m. until Tuesday, when the moon enters Virgo. With the energy of Aries sun, Leo moon, this is the energy of confidence, right? It gets easier to stand on business and know your worth when you remember who you are. When you remember who you are, and no one can do it for you. I know I've been reiterating this, and I will reiterate this all Aries season long. No one can see your worth until you do. That's why you'll see some of the most beautiful, successful, wealthy people still hungry for constant validation. It is an endless, ravenous hunger. You know, if anybody is watching White Lotus right now, this is like Jacqueline, okay? In White Lotus, where she's this mega famous star, but she is so hungry to have her ego be fed and validated. She needs to feel hot. She needs to feel beautiful. She needs to feel young. She needs to feel desired. And you could have everything. You could have a life that everybody dreams of, but still not feel good enough and still be hungry on this external world to feed your ego. Tell me I'm good enough. Tell me I'm pretty. Tell me I'm hot. And that only works for like a millisecond until you need another hit, and you need another hit, and you need another hit. And when you're so dependent on validation from the external world, you will be less rigid of what sources you are getting it from, because it will be something that you need to feed. It's endless. You've got to see it, feel it, and stand in it for you. And when it comes to Monday's astrology, to a very realistic, practical note, be looking at your relationships in a more serious way, around really wanting to invest your time and your energy into connections that stand the test of time, really wanting to build forward with your partner, really wanting to address certain cracks in the foundation that could be alive within your relationship with your partner, which may stem back to past dynamics with Venus still retrograde. There could be a little bit more of a somber, serious note in the air. Like I said, with Saturn on Venus, we may feel less in touch with our whimsy and our delight in the pleasures of life. Mercury stations direct, but even with that, you may still be feeling some technical difficulties, some delays, some miscommunications. So be gentle with that, especially with the Leo moon squaring Uranus. Uranus tends to bring unexpected events, which with moon, it could be unexpected emotions that surface, but it absolutely could be unexpected weather, unexpected technical difficulties, unexpected ahas, right? And Mercury switching direction, moon square Uranus. Just that moment when you're in the same car with Jeff, having the same conversation, and something happens that just shifts your perspective altogether, where it's like, once I get out of this car, I'm never going back in. I am never getting back in this car again. Maybe you don't know that, but my silence will speak that for me. For something new, keep in mind, Venus sextiles Uranus that evening. So it's not just about, addressing certain cracks in the foundation of your relationship just to dig up past stuff and hurt one another's feelings. It's around, what if we could shift the dynamic with the sextile Uranus? It's not about going through your transactions and just hurting your own feelings by looking at your spending. It's around, how can we handle our spending differently? Or if you're feeling the Venus-Saturn vibe where it's like forever alone, like I feel lonely, because sometimes that could be the vibe. You said no to going out with your friends, and now you're in your own energy. You didn't go back to Jeff, so now you're in your own energy. Or you're just like single in the season of your life, and you're like, will I ever find my person out there? With Venus-Saturn and then Venus sextiling Uranus, it's like, sitting in this season of your life, knowing that this time will fortify the next season of your life. And to know to break patterns, to break loops. Sometimes we do kind of need that space and time to get back in our own energy in order to define what we want moving forward. What sort of partner will truly stand the test of time, even if that's different than what we've had before. Again, everyone's different, so I'm not casting judgment if you move through things differently, but I do find that especially if you're wanting to break a loop, you find I just keep dating Jeff over and over again, either literally Jeff or just people just like Jeff. I'm like dating the same person over and over again, different faces, same dynamic. Sometimes pausing, taking that moment and dealing with the ramifications of that around feeling a little lonely and maybe not having that validation coming to you from a romantic partner. Sometimes that's the space that we need in order to break the loop or break the pattern, because from that space, we're able to conjure and create what we genuinely want from our next connection. Because when we are fresh out of a connection, especially if it's been very harmful and very toxic, those loose ends will cause us to crave resolution. So we'll be drawn to people who reactivate the same wounds, hoping that we can recreate the dynamic and get it right this time and get the result that we want this time, which oftentimes goes even further back to caregiver dynamics and things like that. And sometimes we need that space in order to really get clear on what is emotionally attracting us to these patterns in order to then shift it with Venus sextile Uranus. Should be kind of a focus on healing, just with the Leo moon trining the sun, the Leo moon trining Chiron. So again, focusing on how this space, this boundary, this reality check is helping you as it relates to your own healing. That evening, expect the unexpected with the moon squaring Uranus. Like I said, technology could be a little all over the place. Emotions could be a little all over the place, a little dramatic. We are building to a full moon this weekend after all. On Tuesday, April 8th at 6:49 a.m. PDT, the moon will enter Virgo. And this draws our awareness to our routines, to our habits, to the day-to-day. Keep in mind, as we build closer and closer to the full moon, things can feel very chaotic. They can feel very busy. Like you could have a very busy day at work. Luckily, you are equipped to handle it. With the Virgo moon, it likes to stay busy. It likes to be helpful. I will just say, make sure to double check, make sure to reread. Even though Mercury is now direct, it's still clearing its post-retrograde shadow. It's still swimming through Pisces, not its favorite territory to be. And with the energy of Virgo moon and just fresh off the heels of Venus sextile Uranus, know that you can always integrate new habits and routines of ways to love yourself, right? With Venus sextile Uranus, which sometimes can show up in terms of commitments. Venus on Saturn. Sometimes self-love means working the muscle around, I so want to sleep like 20 more minutes, but I love myself enough to get to my meditation nook and meditate this morning. Or, I so just want to flop on my couch and eat chips after work, but I love myself so much that I'm going to go to a yoga class because I know that's going to do my mind, body, and soul good. Like sometimes self-love really is that muscle. And know that this week, with Venus sextile Uranus, there could be an opportunity for something new. And I'm referencing self-love just because Venus is retrograde, but it could also be like within your partner. If you and your partner are really looking at finances, this could be an energy around what's a new budgeting strategy we could take on together in order to reach our financial goals. Or I held this boundary with my uncle. Now that I'm not enabling his bad spending, maybe that will help him shift the pattern to a certain degree. I held this boundary with Jeff. I'm not going back. And now I have the opportunity for something new within my life because I'm not so busy clinging to the old. And if you are actively healing from something, you're healing from your Jeff, you're healing from a past dynamic. With Venus sextile Uranus, the Virgo moon today, this is an optimal time to contemplate, supplementing it with something, rather than running back to Jeff, like choosing instead to stop, drop, and meditate, right? Rather than running back to Jeff, deciding to get into cycling, something like this, something that is ultimately more loving, even if it's harder. And I find, and you've heard me go on a spiel about this, but I'm just going to echo it here because I think it's important, that routines are a daily decision to love yourself, a daily decision to affirm your own worthiness. Even if you're in a certain situation that is causing you to not see your own value, not see your own worth, not see your own beauty, you're around someone who constantly demeans you and belittles you, you're in a toxic work environment, makes you feel like nothing. Like even if you're in these waters that sometimes we can swim away, sometimes just a season of our life where it's like, I can't help where I live right now, or I can't help that I need to graduate before I'm able to shift this, or I can't help that I'm in this relationship because our lease isn't up for 8 more months. Like sometimes there is an energy around, I'm in these waters, I can't swim away quite yet. And it's important not to become those waters, like to feel like you genuinely are worthless and don't have value because you're being told that or being made to feel like that. And what I find is that our routines can help to fight against that. Where even if you're being told all sorts of things or treated certain ways, it's still showing up to do the things that are in alignment with your body, mind, and soul maintenance. It's like, how could I possibly not be valuable? I woke up and I meditated and I did my skincare and I moved my body. It can be something incredibly grounding and stabilizing. It can stabilize you, especially if you're in a situation that's very unstable. It stabilizes you. It creates some sort of ritual. It creates some sort of rhythm in order for you to make that daily affirmation, that daily care around, I must be someone who's valuable. I must be someone who is worthy, even if I'm being told otherwise, even if I'm being treated like otherwise. I must be someone who's worthy because I'm showing up for myself like someone who's worthy. I must be valuable because I'm showing up for myself like someone who's valuable. And like I've been talking about with Venus in Pisces, sometimes you got to fake it till you make it, right? Around, I didn't necessarily feel like doing those things, but it's almost like actions help me transition back to a healthier timeline. And I don't just mean that physically, all health, physical health, mental health, emotional health, spiritual health, it's all connected. And Virgo moon is a great time to hone in on that. It'd be a great week to try something new. If you've always wanted to take a yoga class, if you've always wanted to try meditating, again, it's going to take muscle, it's going to take willpower, it's going to take consistency, it's going to take discipline, but you are worth it. So sorry, because I just cannot shut up about this, about my love for meditating and how much meditating has changed my life. And I know you're rolling your eyes. I did too. My Aquarius placements, before I started meditating, I would get so annoyed at people telling me to meditate. And just it comes from everywhere. Spiritual people tell you to meditate, entrepreneurs tell you to meditate. I was just naturally, when everybody else is doing something, my Aquarius placements are well, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. And so I was resistant to it. And then I did it. And for the first couple of weeks, it was really boring. It was such a chore, but I still showed up. I still showed up. I still showed up. Now I crave it. Now I feel incredibly off if I don't start my day with that. Now I'm so curious how I was just raw dogging life before meditating. My goodness, especially if you were someone who is sensitive or energetically tapped in. Please meditate, my love. It is one of the best things that you'll ever do for energy maintenance. It is the best thing that you'll ever do to be able to get shift into like a more creative mindset. It is one of the best things that you will do in order to enhance your own intuition. I'm a big believer in it, but regardless, it doesn't have to be meditation. There just could be something this week that you're like, I want to try that, right? Venus sextile Uranus. I want to try that. It might be hard. It might take discipline, Venus Saturn, but I want to try that. I'm worth it, right? With Venus retrograde. On Wednesday, April 9th, there does feel to be some analysis paralysis. The moon is in Virgo all day long, which yes, is productive, which yes, is drawing our awareness to our health, which yes, is drawing our awareness to our routines, but it's also just drawing our awareness to all of these details. All of these details of our lives around the baseboards aren't clean, and I have to do this, and did I respond to that? Did I mail that? There just could be an energy around being overwhelmed just with the maintenance of life. Like life is a lot. Life is a lot. And with the energy of Virgo moon square Jupiter and Gemini, you could be quite scattered. There could be a lot on your mind. There could be a lot on your plate, and you may not feel particularly focused handling one thing at a time. And with this much mercurial energy kind of alive within the cosmos, you could just feel like your mind is like a ping pong ball going all over the place. This definitely could be overthinking energy, whether it's overthinking a future decision that you have to make, like should I do this, should I do that, what would happen if I did this, what would happen if I did that, or even contemplating a past decision that you made. Should I have ended things with Jeff? Should I go back? Should I? As human beings, we really don't love to be in limbo. We really don't love to be in limbo. Like when we're kind of in this halfway zone around, should I not? Should I not? Like we really access our fullest power when we are fully in it. When we wake up and we do the thing and we show up with heart and with intentionality because we feel like we're in alignment with our path. Like that's when we reach our maximum capacity. When you are in limbo, it's like living life at 75%, and not because you're not expending energy. Like it takes a lot of mental energy to be like, should I be doing this? Should I be doing that? Like it takes a lot from you, but you're less productive. You're less focused. You're less there because part of you is wondering if you should be somewhere else. And I'm not saying this that you need to like force any decisions right now, but I'm just like drawing your awareness if you do find that you're kind of living in limbo, like too scared to go towards the new, yet too unsatisfied to stay with the old. There just could be an energy where you're very much in your mind trying to rationalize it and logicize it when the mind can only do so much. Like truly, you can sit there and think of all the pro cons and still when you walk down that path, still have cons that you had not even anticipated. Have pros that you did not even anticipate. Our mind can only do so much. So it really doesn't help us think of all of the possible drawbacks and opportunities that await us down every single path. Sometimes there's no right or wrong decision. It's just making a decision and making it right from there because you're doing it with your full soul, your full heart. And this could also show up just to a more mundane level. You could just be feeling kind of distracted at work. Your coworkers keep pulling you aside. You are doing a little bit of this project and then you're going over here. Even the energy of Virgo moon squaring Jupiter, this could be you getting lost around editing small minutia that nobody will ever notice. Like you could be working on a certain proposal for work and be so dialed in to making sure that all of the font is the same size and expending a lot of energy, honing so much into the trees that to tune into the forest. And my eternal encouragement when it comes to having a lot of mercurial energy in the air, the moon's in Virgo, an earth sign, ground down. There's a lot of energies being kicked up right now as we build towards the full moon. Tempers could be flaring. We are in Aries season. Little things could be getting under your skin. It's a Virgo moon. Little things could be bothering you. Okay, with your coworkers, with your partner, things like that. Little things are getting under your skin. And it could be helpful to like ground down into your body to integrate. On Thursday, April 10th, the moon is in Virgo for most of the day. And in the morning time, the Virgo moon opposes Venus in Pisces. So It's kind of that energy. It could come up within your relationships this week. Again, there's a huge focus on relationships, both the relationship that you have with yourself, Aries Sun, and how that shows up with the relationship that you have with others as we build towards the Libra Full Moon. And there could be something that comes up in your partnership, in a work colleague or something like this around, do I nitpick? Do I criticize, or do I choose to see the best in this person or this project or this situation? Because it's not that everything needs to be a deal breaker, right? With Venus Saturn, you just got to really get clear on your values and your deal breaker and stand by them when they are affirmed. But if we tear our hair out criticizing every little thing or nitpicking every little thing, we won't have balance or harmony or connection. Like, relationships, regardless, are going to have stuff. Regardless, they're going to have stuff. You do kind of pick your stuff. And that is not me justifying that you should run back to Jeff and be like, well, that's the stuff that I choose. It's like, no, your relationships should love you and respect you and treat you nice. Like, that is the standard. That is the expectation. But when it comes to other things, yeah, partner is probably going to have some bad habits. Yeah, your partner is probably going to annoy you sometimes. It's just important to pick out what's important to you and stand by that. When that also shows up with our coworkers, with our friends, like, everyone is going to have traits that annoy us, that bother us. You know, sometimes Venus in Pisces shows up around feeling like the perfect thing is out there. And even the right thing for you will have flaws. Like, we are having this human experience. Like, it's not about grass is greener type energy. It's just like really contemplating this week with Venus Saturn around what's important to me. What are my values? What are my standards? And really standing by that. And that also could show up within a work relationship around, you know, someone who's on the team that you manage or something like this. They did something wrong and you're like, do I say it? Do I just take the blame for them? Like, there just could be this energy around, do I dial into the small thing or do I just like keep the peace? Also in the morning time, the moon will trine Uranus. So maybe there's even a new way of approaching a situation. Like, maybe you typically, when it comes to this person who's on the team that you manage, you typically just take the burden yourself when they make a mistake. Maybe there's an opportunity around, hey, can we talk about this? Can we find a solution? Or maybe if you're someone where you call out every little thing when it happens and send a please fix email to someone else, maybe there's an opportunity with Moon trine Uranus around how is a different way we can go about this. It does feel like there's things that are annoying with the Moon opposite Venus, Moon opposite Saturn, but there's also opportunities to improve, to fix. Trine to Uranus, and then also the Moon sextile Mars midday around 12 p.m. I will say the Virgo moon opposes who it's answering to, Mercury in Pisces, at 12:49 p.m. So you could feel pulled between your to-do list and kind of being lost in your own world and kind of experiencing a push-pull there, as well as dialing into what's good enough. You know, Virgo moon wants perfection, but sometimes in life, you gotta be fine with good enough. Really, you gotta be fine. I'm not saying to lower your standards. We've got Venus, Saturn, but when it comes to even like the effort that you expect from yourself, if you've been hesitating around posting your first video or recording your first song or writing your first novel because you feel like it needs to be absolutely perfect, that will keep you in analysis paralysis. You'll never feel like it's perfect enough, good enough. Sometimes you just gotta show up with your whole heart, your whole soul, do the best that you can, and acknowledge that that's perfection. And the moon will be void from 12:49 p.m., closing aspect that opposition to Mercury, so double check all communications that go out until the moon enters Libra at 6:12 p.m. Keep in mind, this is the sign of the full moon. So as that full moon builds, our emotions are building as well. And with the moon shifting into Libra, there is a focus on the balance within our life, the harmony within our life, the equilibrium within our life, which certainly can show up within the balance of self and other. And knowing the more deeply that you show up for self, the more you can show up for others. The truer that you are to yourself, the truer that you will be to others. Knowing that what is happening within in many ways, in many dynamics, in many relationships will play out in your relationships outside. So seeing what this building full moon is spotlighting for you around those themes. On Friday, April 12th, the building full moon in Libra will trine Pluto Aquarius at 1:38 a.m., which is just a reminder of how powerful it can be to link up, to synchronize with other humans. It is very powerful to have a person, have a partner, have a friend to navigate through this life with, even with the annoyances, even how they're not perfect, right? Because nobody will be perfect. It is powerful to link up. We do a lot of our learning in life with relationships. And again, the more present we can be in the chapters where we are on our own, the more present we can be within the chapters that we are walking alongside of someone else. And knowing, Pluto's the planet of psychology, like connections really are a stage that we play out all of our psychological patterns and traumas and hurts and things like that. And it could be so powerful when you are in a safe, healthy connection where you can do that work, where the two of you can grow and evolve together, where you can see, conflict, disagreement, or hard times as an opportunity around how can we grow together? How can we evolve past this? How can we show up for ourselves and show up for one another? Again, our relationships can bring up all sorts of childhood dynamics. They could bring out our abandonment wounds. It could bring out our low self-worth. It could bring out our avoidant attachment. Relationships bring out a lot of stuff that sometimes we didn't even realize was there until it comes out within relationship, until it comes out within like closeness and intimacy. And if you're in a safe, healthy connection, it's like this environment where you are safe to be able to evolve and work through those patterns and to show up for your own growth as you are showing up within the partnership. But sometimes, in the case of our protagonist and Jeff, there's certain connections that just grab hold to certain parts of your psyche that makes it so dangerous, that makes it so toxic, because it's bigger than whatever this is with Jeff. It's bigger than this. It's not just limited to romantic relationships. You can find that potentially you've had romantic friendships, or you can find that perhaps you've had toxic friendship, toxic bosses, right? Like it shows up in many different ways, but there's certain connections who just grab hold to a certain one of your wounds or your beliefs about yourself, and it makes these dynamics even more challenging to untangle yourself from. Different for each of us, of course, but we'll say within the protagonist's example, there was elements of the protagonist's childhood that was very like up, down, on, off. So that dynamic with Jeff was familiar. Even if it was toxic, it was familiar. So there was like an emotional attraction to what Jeff provided. Even if it was harmful and it was hurtful, it was like, oh, this is normal. And it affirms things that I feel to be true, that love is painful, that love is sometimes there and sometimes not. Or maybe the protagonist has low self-worth and feels like I am worthless, I am not valuable. And there's elements of this dynamic that grab hold to that desire of validation and give that validation in small doses to keep you running back, to keep you ensnared. Because every time you need a fresh dose of validation, you run back to it just enough to keep you on the hook for a little bit longer. It's like when it grabs hold to certain vulnerable parts of your psyche, it can just ensnare you deeper. Like again, connection could be so powerful or it could be so damaging if you're linking up with people who create more harm. When I was changing out my battery, I noticed that I had this like rash on my chest. I don't know if you guys saw it. And that happens typically when I'm stressed. Virgo moon, my body's like so sensitive. It's constantly talking to me. And I remember when I was entangled with my Jeff. Does everybody have a Jeff? Comment below if you've had a Jeff in your day. But when I was entangled with my Jeff back in the day, I remember right before I would see him, I would always break out in rashes and hives. It's like my body knew before my mind did that this person was not good for me. Before I would see this person, I would like look in the mirror and be like, wow, I'm looking cute, good makeup day, good hair day. I swear this individual would drain my spirit so much that after, I swear, even my hair would like lose its curl. Like it would just like flatten because my soul just like would flatline around this person. Like my hair was telling me, my body was telling me I had constant anxiety within my stomach. I couldn't eat. I couldn't focus. It messed with my money. It messed with my beauty. It literally siphoned my soul. I can look at any photograph of me. I'm not kidding. You could show me any photograph of me and I will know if we were on or if we were off at that particular moment in time. Because the times that we were on, literally the light was drained from my eyes. Like I could just see it. And it's hard when you're in it because you don't see it. Like now I look back and I'm like, girl, you got rashes, you got stress rashes. Every time you were about to see this person, you were constantly anxious. You could not eat. Like your body was like, no. Your spirit was like, no. Your mind was even seeing some stuff like, no. But your heart was like, wait. And so it is important who you choose to merge and share energy with, because it's like when I'm around the people close to me, when I'm around my loved ones who love me and hype me up and want the best for me, like they charge my sparkle. Like I leave those dynamics and my hair is even more curly than it was before. And I want to eat all of the food and want to create and I want to laugh and I want to live. It's just like more life. So even in micro ways, just really observing, are the people around me amplifying my sparkle or taking it from me? And every connection is going to have bad days, annoyances, little fights, things like this. But really observe, does this person drain who I am as a human being? Like, do I literally feel lifeless when I am around this person? Also, I was just a shell of myself. Like I was just literally frozen around this person. I had less personality. I laughed less. I joked less. And I think that's also important. Like it's Aries season, the sign of self. Do your connections make you feel free and safe to be more of yourself? Or do you feel like you have to subdue yourself and hide yourself? That's another important barometer. And that's the only lunar aspect we have today. So just expect things to be a little busy, potentially your emotions to come to the surface. And they're just to really be an emotional focus to the relationships within your world, the partnerships within your world, and the relationship that you have with yourself. On Saturday, April 12th, quite a day, my loves. So let's take it one thing at a time. I want to start with the Chiron Cazimi, also known as Sun conjunct Chiron. This aligns in the cosmos at 9 a.m. And this is significant because it's woven into the Libra full moon that we'll have this evening. And the energy of Chiron is the wounded healer. And with Sun on Chiron, the wounds that you have within yourself, which oftentimes get drawn out within the connections that you have with others. Again, so many of us go through life still having these imprinted coping mechanisms and wounds and beliefs about ourselves woven within. And until we recognize that, the pain that is within us, it will of course be drawn out within connections. Sometimes in toxic ways, like the relationship with Jeff and your own wounds that kind of fed into this loop of what kept you coming back. But also with any relationship that we have in life. You know, when we partner with someone, we partner with their wounds and their coping strategies and their beliefs about themselves and things like that. And again, the right connection will evolve as you do and grow, and the two of you will support one another's healing. And it's not to say that we ever stay stagnant in that version of ourselves, but it is knowing that connection is where stuff tends to come out. Our own stuff, our partner's stuff, and that feels to be the energy on Saturday. You know, there could be triggers happening here. We think about the sun aligning with Chiron, sun is exalted. There could be an energy around either going on the offense because you feel triggered. So someone hurts you and you seek to hurt them before they hurt you, or reject them before they reject you. Or this could be an energy around feeling victimized, feeling judged, feeling ostracized, and making it a you thing. Feeling like there's something wrong with you, that you've been treated in the way that you have been treated. You know, Chiron energy can kind of like bring about our biggest insecurities and our biggest inadequacies. And sometimes that wounded part of ourselves, as painful as it is, it wants to be right. So when we're in an overall cycle with Jeff that makes us feel worthless and not valuable, that wounded part of you that feels that way is like, see, I told you that you were worthless and not valuable. See how this person treats you, and you let them? And you let this person treat you and you run back to them every single time? Of course you're worthless. Of course you don't have value. Like, even as painful as it is, sometimes these stories, this pain underneath it wants to be validated in the weirdest way. The mind wants to be right, and it can keep us drawn to certain things that are really not good for us, or just reinforce familiar pain tapes that play within. There could also be something around how painful it is to be seen, whether like being visible, like it's painful to be visible because to be visible means to be judged, or within the context of another. where it's painful to be in partnership and to have these darker parts of yourself or these uglier parts of your healing brought out through the nature of close intimacy and close connection. The Aries Libra axis is really around like independence and interdependence and how those things can work together. And sometimes when we feel like we've been exposed too much, there could be an energy where we want to run from the connection because it feels uncomfortable to be seen so deeply. And with the Chiron Cazimi, I'm not saying all day long you're going to feel like triggered and wounded, but there just could be a spotlight on where it is that you've been hurt, where it is that you've been wounded, where it is that you've been victimized within this world. And with the energy of Aries, like really seeing yourself as going to be victorious over these wounds. It's like really that wounded warrior energy is the Aries sun on Chiron, where it's like, you know, I might have been hurt in this dynamic with Jeff. It's like a shattered heart and a broken ego and things like that. But I'm going to still fight. I'm going to still fight for my life and building a life that I desire and building a life that I deserve. And knowing that the healing starts sometimes in those lowest moments, like that moment when you were detoxing from Jeff and everything within you wanted to go back to that person. That's really where the healing began. Like we cannot heal where it is that we continually get hurt over and over. So even though you're feeling vulnerable and scared and wounded and not good enough and like whatever else is being brought up, and that might be so different for each and every person that is watching this video. It's knowing that even if you're going through it, even if you're feeling vulnerable, even if you're feeling down on your luck, my love, so long as you show up for this moment, really not giving up on yourself, choosing to show up for this moment with your whole heart, your whole soul, your whole intentionality, you are on the road to recovery. You are on the road to recovery. It's when we ignore that we do feel vulnerable, we do feel sensitive, we have been hurt, that sometimes can perpetuate these familiar loops. Like our body hates to be in pain. And actually, fun fact, Bonnie, shout out Bonnie, my therapist, told me that your brain cannot distinguish the difference between physical pain and emotional pain. So when you're in the depths of emotional pain, it's like you want to do anything to relieve that pain. And like Jeff is like your emotional aspirin, right? It's like, just take the pain away. But Jeff actually does hurt you deeper each and every time. Aspirin doesn't exactly do that. It does temporarily relieve the pain, but then it just reinforces it and opens it all over, and then you're back to square one. So it's just knowing right now, if you're wounded, if you're going through it, if you're hurt, please know this too shall pass. And how it is that you choose to show up for yourself and fight for yourself, that's what matters at this particular point in time. And the Chiron energy is pulled into the Libra full moon. So there really is a spotlight on our triggers, on our wounds, on where we're hurt, on where we're healing, and on where we're hurt, on where we're hurt. That's pulled into this full moon. So not only are we questioning relationships and connection and partnership and balance within our world, we're also contemplating how our wounds play into that, how our wounds make us drawn to certain connections, how our wounds play a part in the current issues that you're facing within your relationship and your partnership, how even your failure to see yourself is playing into your current relationship and partnership. Because Sun is ego, it's identity. And like we were talking about with Venus retrograde, like we were talking about with Venus Saturn, you know, sometimes we don't see ourselves. We don't see our own beauty. We don't see our own worth. We don't see our own value. And with Sun Chiron, either being visible is painful, or there's an energy around not being able to see ourselves outside of viewing ourselves through the loop and the lens of inadequacy, insecurity, not good enough. I want to let you know the full moon in Libra exacts at 5:22 p.m. PST. It aligns at 23 degrees Libra, so you'll want to see where that's located within your chart, as that is the sector of life that is being highlighted. Because sure, for a lot of us, relationship themes will be brought to the surface. Certainly, Libra is the sign of that. But also balance within finances could be coming up if this full moon lands in your second house. Balance between your private life and your public life could come up if the Libra full moon is in your 10th house. Check out your chart to see where exactly. Because again, our wounds, our conditioning, our coping strategies, our internal messages about ourselves that can be harmful and painful, that gets brought out in lots of arenas of life. We talked about last week that could be brought up in work situations, you know, codependent or people-pleasing behaviors, like that seeking of validation because like we felt like it was missing. Again, Chiron can infect a lot of what it is that we experience within life. And while this full moon could be spotlighting it, the full moon does trine Jupiter. So it does feel like there is some wisdom around it. Or you could even spend time with individuals who make you feel vulnerable and safe to go there, even in the ugly, raw parts of healing and pain, but feeling supported because you are moving through this by this person's side. Like that also could be a story here. So this full moon pulls in Chiron, as we discussed. So wounds and triggers are highlighted, and this full moon also is squaring Mars, who's working hard to get out of its post-retrograde shadow. But this is the energy, we are triggered. We are more sensitive, right? And it could be coming from a deeper, more wounded place. But even with that, even though there could be some crabbiness and some tension and some little spats and little arguments and things like this, the full moon trines Jupiter. So it is important, if we view relationships as this kind of stage for our own growth and evolution, it is important as these things get triggered to fight forward in a way around, rather than rehashing the same old story and reaffirming the same old wounds about yourself, about this other person, like really seeing how can we move forward beyond this dynamic, beyond this argument, beyond this pain point even. And like a half hour after the full moon exacts, the ruler of the full moon, Venus, stations direct. So this signals the conclusion to our Venus retrograde story, which you can get caught up on which sector of your chart it kicked up via my video. I have it dropped below. And I really shouldn't say it officially concludes, because technically we need Venus to clear the shadow, but you should feel this switch of direction where it's like, rather than walking down memory lane and replaying the same situation with Jeff over and over again, I'm ready to look towards the future, or I'm ready to like integrate all of the data of what Venus retrograde has shown to me to move forward. Again, we've been in this collective spirit of revisiting what we value, what we love, what dynamics and connections make us feel the most ourselves. And some of you might have had people from the past coming out of the woodwork. Sometimes that's not the Venus retrograde story for everyone. You could have been dreaming about people from your past, reflecting on people from your past. And regardless, the kind of focus towards the past is shifting, and now it's time to move towards the future, taking all of that data, all of that intel from these past connections with you, graduating from this unfulfilling and unsatisfying class that you've been repeating over and over, and moving to the next level. Because you're ready for it. You passed the test. On Sunday, April 13th, the Libra moon squares off with Mars at 3 a.m. This was woven into the Libra full moon, at which point the moon is void until it enters its fall, the sign Scorpio, at 6:54 a.m. You may be feeling a little bit of a full moon hangover. You know, during full moons, everything is exaggerated. Every emotion is highlighted. Everything comes out to the table. And sometimes this can show up around like partying and celebrating and living life, but sometimes it could just show up as arguments and spats and things that have been building and building and building coming to the surface. And even if it wasn't dramatic for you, you could just kind of wake up on Sunday a little out of it. Sometimes around full moons we have a hard time sleeping. Sometimes around full moons we feel drained. So I would just say on Sunday, be gentle with yourself. Try not to be destructive with yourself. The Scorpio moon squares Pluto, and this shows up in many different ways. Like, yes, it could be being destructive to run back to Jeff. Like, ultimately, that is destructive as an action. I know it feels good. I know it's a high. I know it's like a loop-de-loop on a roller coaster, but ultimately it is destructive. Or maybe you wake up and you're feeling anxious, so you decide to drink in order to self-soothe or self-medicate. That can also be destructive. Like, there just could be some intense emotion, Scorpio moon, with a square to Pluto, handling or processing them in a way that is destructive. And I would really encourage you to see where it is that you could transmute all of the emotions into something powerful. And my love, that is our week. So the Magic Monday mantra of the week is, as I show up for myself, I show up for others. Aries, Libra axis. The truer that you are to yourself, the truer you can be to someone else. The more honest you are with yourself, the more honest you could be with someone else. And the more you can love yourself, the more you can love another. Like, truly, there is an equilibrium. There is a balance here. And the energy of the Libra full moon affirms that. Healthy relationships is not a relationship where you show up to give and someone else just takes. Healthy relationships is not like a scale where you are absorbing the lion's share of the burden. Like, it is this give and take. And if you're in a season of your life where you are on your own, like Be on your own. Be present for yourself. Be with yourself in this particular season. Being in a relationship is not better than being on your own if it is the wrong relationship. But it's like, if we are looking for someone else to fix within us what we feel like is void or empty, that essence of what we're really after will continue to elude us regardless of the connection. It will never feel to be enough. To show up for another means to show up for self. And also, if you're in a relationship and you feel like you have not been prioritizing and valuing yourself, you've been putting this person's needs entirely above your own, where you don't even recognize yourself, understand that when you show up to a relationship as less of your own essence, you truly and honestly do have less to give. Like, to be true to this other person, it does require being true to yourself, which means showing up for yourself, advocating for yourself. And with Venus direct, hopefully you can take all of what you've learned in this journey up to this point, both from this Venus retrograde, March 1st to April 12th, but also this journey thus far, like all of the lessons within life school, and take it with you on your journey forward to show up for healthy, fulfilling, beautiful, aligned partnerships and relationships, because you are so worthy of that. So my loves, if you made it to the end of this video, go ahead and drop below the scale emoji as a shout out to the Libra Full Moon and all of the themes that it's bringing up to the surface. Or if you are on your desktop or you like to play the word game, just use the word scale within a sentence to let me know that you made it to the end. My Instagram handle is @Haley Comet Astrology. My TikTok is the same. I would so love to connect with you over there. And until we meet again, drink lots of water and stay cosmic.